Hate is such a nasty word, isn't it? I don't think we've used that here at the Voice of College Football. But tonight we will talk about who do you hate in college football? Players, coaches, teams, referenced by a article on 247 Sports by Mr. Brad Crawford today. So that gave me some inspiration for a topic for tonight as we review Brad's article on the 10 most hated college football teams of all time. Of course, ultimately, though, you produce the show here at 860-499-3332 with your comments in the live chat section and, of course, your phone calls right here at the Voice of College Football. We are full throttle in prediction season. Please check out the videos. I've released about 15 teams. My record predictions for 2021, take them to the bank. Take out a small deposit, but take them to the bank. Yes, we also just finished up a segment with Steve Dace on Michigan Podcast this afternoon, so check that out. I matched his over-unders, and so we had a little bit of a contest, and of course, it's there for all to see and will be recorded and has been, is online, and we will see who fared better on over-unders this season once we get to December between Mr. Michigan Podcast, Steve Dace, and myself. It's always a fun time over there, and I certainly appreciate Steve for inviting me on his show each and every, typically Tuesday, released this Monday. Look down below, Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App. That's where you can contribute here at the Voice of College Football. PayPal, Venmo, and Cash App. I almost combined the three there. PayPal, Venmo, and Cash App to contribute to the Voice of College Football. Also, you shop Amazon. I know you do. So when you do so, please grab the link in the description section of any of the videos when you do your Amazon shopping. Actually, that would be a great thing to do before we start ramping up on the college football talk right now. Grab the link, put it somewhere where you will remember it. And when you do your Amazon shopping, just use the link. It's the same shopping experience. Doesn't cost you a penny. We are 18 Peyton Manning days away from college football on a Saturday. Many of you won't acknowledge that. Week 0. So we are 25 days away, 23 days away from that Thursday night with Ohio State and Minnesota as the headliner. But just think of this, 18 days away from college football, and most notably UCLA and Hawaii, Nebraska and Illinois. Big Ten opener in conference play for both. And here we go. Two things I would like to note before we start reviewing the article and looking at all of what you guys have here in the live chat, and I will get to the call online as well, would be a reminder that on September 2nd, the very early morning of September 2nd at 2 o'clock in the morning, September 2nd, that Wednesday night, Thursday morning, we will be going live for 24 consecutive hours right here at the Voice of College Football, live with you for 24 consecutive hours to launch the college football season. Thursday, Wednesday overnight into Thursday, all day Thursday through the Thursday night games, post-game wrap-up with you until at least 2 in the morning, 24 straight hours. And I usually get up out of this chair after 2.5 or 3 hours, and I think my right hip's about to lock up. So 24 consecutive hours. And for as much as I would like to say I'm going to be here for 24 straight, I'll take a few naps. We will have fill-in programming, fill-in hosts, hopefully. I've yet to ask anyone, hey, can you fill in for me at 4 to 6 in the morning? So don't miss that. 24 consecutive hours here at the Voice of College Football live, leading into the college football season. Also, don't forget our post-game shows featuring Ohio State is on board now, Michigan, Iowa. We also have Florida State, Miami, We have Notre Dame. We have Texas A&M and Florida, Oklahoma, and we hope to add a few others. Florida, Texas A&M, Ohio State, Michigan, Iowa, Miami, Florida State, Notre Dame, Florida, Texas A&M, an SEC show on Thursday and Saturday night, and a wrap-up show on Sunday on the SEC channel. Tons of SEC programming. Post-game shows is immediately after your team comes off the field. We will have post-game shows for those particular teams, and we hope to add more. Let us get to the live chat. Oh, man. A lot of comments. Mike 3883, what's wrong with Iowa and Wisconsin? Is there a conversation in there that I was missing? First comment of the night. What's wrong with Iowa and Wisconsin? All right, Mike, I definitely agree with the last one, though. Again, I think I missed something here. Oh, maybe somebody hates Iowa and Wisconsin. Is that possible? Who are the most likable teams in college football? I'm thinking most likable. Vanderbilt, likable. Stanford, likable. Northwestern, likable. Kansas State, likable. TCU, likable. George says, I would say Georgia hates Florida, but that's not true. They're just jealous of us. Yeah, especially the last few years. Georgia obviously suffers from jealousy there. Lewis, always doing the right thing. There's a guy that does the right thing every time. I just know this in life. It has to be that way for Lewis in life because he does the right thing here. And this is a microcosm of life here at the Voice of College Football. So we know that Lewis does the right thing because he always likes and shares. Lewis, thank you so much for that. I see Lewis every day on Twitter retweeting and sharing the videos. John, who are we playing this week? I hate them. That's a healthy college football attitude right there. Week to week. Who do we got? Wake Forest, hate them. There's a likable team, Wake Forest. Lewis hates them all. Well, I'm going to read Brad Crawford's article. I'm going to run through the teams that he has posed. I don't know if he came up with this list or there was some kind of poll. We will find out as the 10 most hated college football teams of all time. Good to see Joey here. Good to see Bud Petty. Let's get it on here at the Voice of College Football. Great to see you, Joey. Isn't that there a fine piece of craftsmanship? And no, don't fear. You don't have to buy that guy there that's pointing at you. Somebody said that to me a couple hours ago on a comment. Mark, why do you always point at us? But yeah, maybe I'll put it out here. We'll see. I've had it standing up back there. Then I had to put it down because I was doing my prediction videos and wanted a certain helmet back there. But TriStateWoodsketch.com. TriStateWoodsketch.com. Let's go to the banner. There you go. Drop my name, Mark, the Voice of College Football. However you would like to phrase it. I still go by Mark. I know that many of you can't believe that it's typically just the Voice of College Football or the Voice. I've heard that many times. But yeah, I do go by Mark, especially here at home still. But that's amazing. I am still amazed at the craftsmanship there. And you get to pick out your photo. You send in your photo, and then you select your surface. It's remarkable. TriStateWoodSketch.com. Tell them the voice of college football sent you. Back to the football. Yes, good to see you, Matthew. And Bud, again, JC. Moonbot, yo, yo. Nate the Great's here. Nate the Great. Oh, I like what you did there, Nate. I like what you did there. Even I caught on to that. And I'm usually slow to that kind of stuff. I don't know how many handles I butcher on here because I'm like, what does that mean? What is he trying to spell? And then I'm like, phonetically spell it. Oh, yeah, got it. This is what we need more in life, and specifically here at the Voice of College Football. More Purdue fans. This is a good thing. Zach's a Purdue fan. He's here. Zach, it's great to see you. Welcome to the Voice of College Football. Would love to know who you root. Oh, I think I got that covered. Purdue fan. And how long you've been watching. Well, I'll just kick this off by saying Tom Allen and PJ Fleck are annoying human beings, in my opinion. Okay, mark one down. PJ Fleck, who you got to think is one of the most polarizing figures in college football. I'm actually surprised at how many people like and enjoy PJ Fleck. I would think that he would turn off a ton of people, but I generally find that people like PJ Fleck. I love the guy. Love PJ Fleck. But again, Purdue fan, Big Ten Western Division rivals. Tom Allen. Tom Allen, of course, brings his own exuberance. It certainly matches, if it doesn't succeed, PJ Fleck's exuberance. But it's a little rougher. PJ Fleck, more of a salesman, more of a silver-tongued salesman. And Tom Allen's just a hard-working, grinded-out football coach who was excited about be coaching those Indiana Hoosiers be coaching. But Tom Allen, yeah, he's the guy that's going to headbutt the offensive lineman with the headgear still on. But I like Tom Allen. He's fun. He's not as entertaining to me as PJ Fleck. The entertainment value is in brief spurts with Tom Allen. He's running around the field like a crazy man for like 13 seconds. Okay, seen it. Good. That's funny. Jumping up in the stands, trying to high five people and falling down, that sort of thing. And again, the chest bumps with the players and all that. Yeah, but PJ Fleck is just kind of overall, just it doesn't stop with the rhetoric. Ethan says Michigan goes 5-7 this year. That's the end of Jimbo. H-Man 998, South Carolina. H-Man told us a few weeks ago, I believe, that excited about the Gamecocks this year. And I love when fans of teams that are supposed to be down, and they have been down, are still up and excited. This is the time to be excited before Georgia or Florida put a boot up here. Matthew, with one that I could not anticipate seeing here. Prairie View A&M, hated. Okay. Like the flip on the words there. Emily Jones for Heisman. JC, love it. Gopher fan hates. Man, a lot of Big Ten Western Division reps tonight. Purdue, Minnesota, Iowa. But Gopher fan hates Iowa. That's a rivalry. Iowa, Minnesota, of course. Of course, Minnesota, Wisconsin for Paul Bunyan's axe. And Minnesota, Michigan. Which one is, wait a minute, I'm confused. Minnesota, Wisconsin. That's the Axe. Minnesota, Michigan. They're very similar. Help me out, Gopher fan. The two trophies are extremely similar between Minnesota, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan. And I should know this and have known it forever, but it's just slipping my mind. Sam says Ohio State, Alabama, Texas among the most hated teams. Yeah, when you win a lot, you're hated. New England Patriots, hated. Zach comes back with IU sucks. And who else do we have? I can't name all of you. I apologize. So I'm going to have to stop at one point, but just see who else we have. Hman998, as a South Carolina fan, of course, hates Tennessee, Florida, Clemson. Makes sense. Moonbot, Notre Dame. I would think Alabama, Ohio State, and Notre Dame are three of the most hated. I would guess that they are the three most hated. Yes, good call there, Zach, the Purdue fan. I spit that out about the 18 days until the first college football game. And I think a Peyton Manning is 18 because he obviously wore it for 18 years as opposed to wearing 16 for 4 years. But this is a college football show. But I just watched, I was talk about being entertained. I was entertained by the induction speeches at the Hall of Fame last night. I thought they were exceptional, except for my man, Drew Pearson. Drew Pearson, I was a Cowboys fan when I was a Tyke, and Drew Pearson was right up there. But, Drew, you can't always follow Drew Pearson, meaning the next speaker can follow him because he's going to be better, but you can't actually follow the pattern of thinking, the line of thought. So Drew was a bit off, but that was typical Drew Pearson. But everybody else was phenomenal. All the speeches, all of them, and they were so different. You had Peyton Manning, and I'm not going to go through my response to each one and why they were different. But if you love the NFL, go check out the Hall of Fame speeches from over the weekend. Charles Woodson wrapped it up. He was exceptional. Alan Faneca was everybody was really good. Who else? Tom Flores is 84 years old. So a bit of a concession there. He was good. He was fine. But most of them were like exceptional, like some of the best speeches I've heard. And I don't watch that. It's not something that I have to watch every year. So I'm in and out and see it some years. But if I'm busy, I don't make it a point to watch it. So I can't compare that against all the speeches. But and they used to let these guys ramble on for 30 or 45 minutes. And now it's a tight 8 minutes, something like that. Who else? Calvin Johnson. I'm forgetting a few people. I think there were 7. There you go, Sam. The most hated team in the Big 12 has always been Texas. And then Oklahoma, I would guess, would be a strong second, or maybe a weak second, but a second. Somebody get the phone. Weak second. And now, that's why it's going to be somewhat interesting, maybe somewhat predictable to see the agreement between the SEC and Oklahoma and Texas and when that is going to come to fruition. Because right now, the Big 12 has Oklahoma and Texas tied down to 2025-26. There is no way that those two football teams stay in that conference for another 21 to like 5 football seasons. It's been brought up about the bad blood between Big 12 teams and Texas and Oklahoma. I think we're not going to see it to the extent that I'm hearing from some people. I don't think it's going to be an all-out brawl every time Texas and Oklahoma step on the field against somebody in the Big 12. But the players that feel true to their schools are going to feel slighted, are going to feel as though they think they're better than us. They're leaving us, they're betraying us. Something to watch. Oh man, traveling fools, speaking my language here. About to order a bunch of Amazon crap for a trip we're about to take. I'll be sure to use that link. That link is good for a whole lot of crap. Moonbot 7. This is an interesting comment, for lack of a better term. If Christianity is true, then praying should be cheating, or any religion foundation should be banned. Well, I don't necessarily know if this is the show to go into theology and why that statement seems to make sense on the surface, but is flawed. Husker fan Matthew Mustrick, D-Rock Irish. Good to see you. He's happy with recruiting. Bo Weevil, good to see you. Big Pete's here. Okay. Here we go. So Brad Crawford, 247 Sports, released this article today. College football's 10 most hated teams of all time. I saw some of these and instantly thought, absolutely. Others, I didn't get the angle. So let's see if this came from a poll or if this is his list. Nobody likes a winner. You respect the grind. End result is a competition. Okay. Not going to read all this. Here's a group of debatable teams that were generally repulsive to outsiders, single-season powerhouses that rested on immense talent advantages and thriving in pressure-packed situations. Okay. So this is his list. This was not a poll of the 10 most hated college football teams of all time. You ready? And someday when we have a graphics coordinator, we will pop up the graphic, but I did not prepare for this. All right, at number 10, so you got to listen up. UCF of 2017. Okay, I can understand it. They basically whined about the national championship. That is the sole reason that they would be there. They crowned themselves the national champion. People didn't like that. So 2017 UCF. Number 9, Alabama of 2011. So everybody hates Alabama to begin with. Non-Alabama fans hate Alabama. They're near the top of the list anyway. Then that 2011 team, of course, lost in the regular season at home, did not win a division championship. Therefore, they could not win a conference championship, still were selected to go to the BCS championship game. And of course, in true Alabama style, avenged the loss and won the BCS championship. So, yeah, people were upset that the SEC had two teams that had played each other already, and that Oklahoma State was a one-loss team just like Alabama, but won a conference. So that same season, 2011, Wisconsin won the Big Ten, but they were 10-2. West Virginia won the Big East, but they had a couple losses. Clemson won the ACC, but they had a couple losses. And out in the Pac-12, yeah, it was the 12 at the time. No, the Pac-10 at the time. Oregon won the Pac-10. What was their record in 2011? I would have thought that they would have been somewhat lined up for that. 2011, Oregon Don't feel like looking that up. Okay. Number 8, Ohio State in 2002, with all their lucky wins and the call against Miami. So Ohio State comes in at number 8, the Buckeyes of 2002. Now, in reviewing this article, there was a statement made in here that I did not think was accurate, because he stated the Luckeyes seem to always have a flair for the dramatic, yes, during Jim Tressel's only national championship season, and benefited from several calls, including that big one. I don't know what other calls Ohio State benefited from that year. Please tell me. I watched every play of the season. I do not remember any other calls that could be questioned. They won a lot of close games, but what calls did they receive? Okay. 2017 Oklahoma at number 7. So some of these selections are merely because of one particular player, and in this case, it's all about Baker Mayfield acting like a moron. So we know that. Grabbing his crotch, screaming at people, planting flags, whatever he did that year. What else did he do? But Oklahoma was good. They almost made the national championship game that year, and they would be one of the most hated. Again, that had more to do with one player. That's the first team on the list that had to do with one guy. Number 6, Notre Dame of 1993. I'm not getting this one. This is the year Notre Dame beat Florida State to take over the number 1 ranking late in the season, then turned around and lost to Boston College to lose the number 1 ranking and never regained it, and claims a national championship. The school doesn't, but I guess Lou Holtz had made a comment about winning the national championship, and Notre Dame in 1993 has every right to claim a national championship. Every right. Brad also put in here the 2012 Notre Dame Fighting Irish as a close second. So I would think this would be more so. The 2012 Notre Dame team is the team that people were annoyed at because they were playing Alabama in the championship game, and that could have been Oregon, that could have been Ohio State, and it made for a boring, just ridiculously boring, way beyond 42-14, just atrocious BCS championship game. And Notre Dame didn't seem like they didn't belong on the same field with Alabama. I don't know who would have that season, but they continued to slip by and slip by and slip by. Then we had the Manti Te'o saga, and that was quite intriguing to start and then annoying. I'm the type of person that it was annoying from the start, but for a lot of people it was intriguing. Then it got to be a little too much, and you almost just cringed at the absurdity and the embarrassment of the situation. So I would have put Notre Dame. Had I put a Notre Dame team on the list, it would have been the 2012 team. Number 5, Florida, 1996. Well, there you had Steve Spurrier, who's not liked by some people, throwing his visor all over the place. And they lost late to Florida State. They rematched in the Sugar Bowl. They won the national championship. And they had some swag and were not well received by some. But I would think the Tim Tebow Florida teams might trump that Florida Steve Spurrier team of 96 in terms of hatred. Tim Tebow, of course, very polarizing as well. Number 4, Auburn of 2010 and Cam Newton. I didn't know that this team was hated. 2010 Auburn, if anything, I thought it was a great story. They came out of nowhere. Cam Newton came out of nowhere. Now, maybe Cam Newton later became vilified. So it depends whether you're looking at the time or historically, because there's been a different tinge to that season, and Cam Newton, because of NCAA would-be violations, NCAA discoveries, or discoveries by outside sources. All right. The most hated team of all time at number 3 would be Florida State of 2014, not the 2013 BCS championship team, but the following team that skated by every week. And Jameis Winston acted like a fool a bunch of times. The second most hated team of all time, 2005 USC. Really? Okay. That was marred by the Reggie Bush situation, but I find that most people are defending Bush and wanting him to get his Heisman Trophy back and his awards. And the most hated football team of all time in the collegiate ranks, 1986 Miami. Would-be national championship team, seemed to be the best and the most talented, played Penn State in the Fiesta Bowl for the national championship, for the number 1 ranking in a 1-versus-2 game. Just had the swag, were the bad boys of the sport. Were seen getting off the airplane in camo gear. So there's the list. There is the list. 860-499-3332. If I have not posted, before I pull the ticker down below, which says, oh, yes. Let me announce this as well. Okay, again, post-game shows coming up for all the teams that I listed before: Miami, Florida State, Texas A&M, Florida, Ohio State, Michigan, Iowa, Oklahoma, Notre Dame, and we hope some other ones. But also, folks, move on over to Patreon. We are going to not only provide you with my weekly predictions for college football, week to week, my top 25 picks usually, and more. I go top 25 and then a few other intriguing, interesting games. So it's typically 25 picks out of me, but we've invited media guests. We've collected about 12. I've listed those on Patreon. More to come. Guys like Steve Hellwagon, Kevin Noon, Tony Gerdeman, Steve Dace, Mike McDaniel, and others have agreed, Clayton Safey, to provide their predictions on Patreon. So head on over to Patreon. 17 cents a day, $5 a month. You get all those media predictions. And of course, an exclusive live stream per request. 1 per week, exclusive live stream per request, and an insider look here at the Voice of College Football. That's on Patreon. Oh, did I miss something? Sorry, buyers. Where are we? What do you need? I wish Mark would give my paid comments airtime. Buyers, when have I missed your paid comments? I take great strains in making sure I do not miss a super chat. So I'm not infallible. So it's possible. I don't get that many. It's not like one of these many podcasts that you see on YouTube, like these political podcasts where they've got super chats just they're just popping up there like a slot machine. No. So it's pretty easy for me to find. I do not see. So buyers, I apologize if I have missed your paid comments. So what I would like you to do is take any comments that you've made in the past, because that just hasn't happened before on a regular basis. So take your comments and send them to me in a non-paid form, and we will read them. Okay. Where was I? Oh, Sam, be the party pooper. The Rod Favre. I don't hate Tebow, the person, but there are so many players I'd pick as the best ever over Tebow. Well, it's one of those things like Tom Brady. Is Tom Brady the greatest NFL quarterback of all time? I don't believe so, but that it really is a difficult argument to make against him because he's accomplished the most. So there's the most accomplished versus the best. They're not necessarily the same guy. Is the most accomplished coach in either college football, the NFL, or any other sport the best coach? Not necessarily. If Nick Saban never made it to Alabama or LSU, would he be winning national championships? Would he still be really good? He was losing a lot more games at Michigan State. So the most accomplished and the best aren't necessarily the same thing. Now, if you are the most accomplished, then it's easier to make that argument for that individual. If you've got the records and the wins and the championships, got Tyrone here. I joined in late. The Yankees have to be on that list for sure. People going to hate. Do people hate the Aggies? Other than Texas fans? Really? Number one, Indy fans got 3 tickets for the Florida State Notre Dame game on the 30-yard line. Will enjoy the rowdy environment. Can't think of a better way to get back to full stadiums. Should be a good time. David, thank you so much for commenting on Bobby Bowden. We had 2 separate conversations. One was just a commentary that I delivered in memory and in tribute to Bobby Bowden. And then also we had Jason Parker on a live stream to discuss the coach's legacy, which most people will not agree with me that I believe he has an argument. Now, listen to me clearly. An argument as the greatest of all time. I didn't say he was the greatest of all time. I said he has an argument. He has a legitimate argument. Samuel and David are telling us that people hate Nebraska. Many fans hated Nebraska and Coach Osborne for allowing Lawrence Phillips, yes, and Christian Peter to rejoin the team and start against Florida in 1995. Samuel, that's a interesting note in college football history that I had forgotten about, but I immediately do remember that. Kentucky fan hates Tim Tebow, number 1. Mr. HD checking in from Publix. All right. So we do have the phone lines open. Right there, 860-499-3332. 860-499-3332. We don't have to talk about most hated player, team, coach. Talk about anything you want. Illinois, Nebraska, week 0. Week 0. Why there is such a thing as week 0, I don't know. Anyway, week 1, week 0. Hawaii and UCLA. There are some other teams playing that day, but those are the Power 5 teams. Let's see what's On the college football headlines today, Kent State has rewarded Coach Lewis with an extension through 2025. Virginia Tech extends their athletic director through June of 29. Really? 2 more Arizona State assistant coaches put on paid leave. We saw Herm Edwards at the Hall of Fame induction ceremonies yesterday. Miami's De'Ara King inks NI deal with NHL's Panthers. Week 0, Saturday, August 28th. You've got UTEP taking on New Mexico State. CBS Sportsnet will televise UConn and Fresno State. Also, CBS Sportsnet will televise Southern Utah at San Jose State. Fox, 1 o'clock Eastern. Nice. Nebraska at Illinois. So I'll be able to watch the Huskers and the Illini, followed by on ESPN at 3:30, sometime in the fourth quarter, Hawaii and UCLA at the Rose Bowl. And then we've got a Wednesday game on September 1st with UAB taking on Jacksonville State on ESPN. But that's going to be crash time for me, preparing for the 24-hour straight live. And then Thursday, we will watch together Weber State at Utah, Eastern Michigan at UNLV, Houston Baptist at New Mexico, Temple at Rutgers on the Big Ten Network at 6:30. So we'll kick it off with that game, Temple, Rutgers. We'll be watching together, part of the 24-hour live launch. So Temple, Rutgers. And then at 7 o'clock, we'll have the opportunity to switch on over to Boise State and UCF. Now, that's a nice game. And then also at 7:30 on ESPNU, you've got Appalachian State hosting East Carolina. And then at 8, the SEC Network comes into play with Tennessee hosting Bowling Green. And then the Fox game is Ohio State, Minnesota at 8. And late night on the Pac-12 Network, I do not have Southern Utah, Arizona State. On Friday, so I'm going to have to, go to bed after 24 straight hours, get some sleep, be back up on Friday, talking college football with all of you. And at 6 o'clock, I love when they start some games early. Virginia Tech and North Carolina at 6 on Friday, the 3rd. Duke, Charlotte on CBS Sportsnet. Old Dominion and Wake Forest on the ACC Network. Then later we've got Michigan State Northwestern at 9. So the ESPN doubleheader is a nice one. UNC Virginia Tech at 6. Michigan State Northwestern at 9. And then later we've got Northern Colorado at Colorado. And we've got Colorado State hosting South Dakota State on FS1, leading into the Saturday, Sunday, Monday games. Sweet. Suddenly, some folks want to call. So let's take them. I believe we've got Aaron on the line here at the Voice of College Football.
Hey, how you doing, man?
I am good. What's going on?
Not much. I'm an Oregon fan here, and obviously Ohio State Week 2 is potentially one of the biggest games of the year, certainly the biggest one for Oregon. And I just want to know what you thought defensively about Oregon, especially in light of the 2 DBs that were suspended recently. Do we have anyone? Is there any covering Olave and the rest of the crew there?
Well, fortunately for you, you're at least going to see a quarterback who's only making his 2nd career start. Now, you'd probably rather be facing him during his 1st career start because that first game under his belt against a quality opponent in Minnesota is going to count for something, is going to prepare him for the spotlight. You, of course, have Kayvon Thibodeau, who's one of the best in the business, and Noah Sewell, freshman of the year in the Pac-12 at linebacker. But Yeah, I will have to look into the secondary. We had an Oregon show last week and talked about the secondary and how much it hurts, in particular, its safety. But yeah, that's huge. You're facing the best wide receiver core in the country. You're facing an inexperienced but talented quarterback, regardless of who wins the job. Most likely C.J. Stroud, and an offensive line that's one of the top 3 or 4 in the country. But I think it's still going to be a really good game, and I do think that Oregon has a healthy shot at this.
Yeah, so that's the other question. There's questions about Anthony Brown's deep ball. I think he is the one to start. I think he's earned it. I think his career has shown that he's more than capable. But I don't know if he has the X factor that we might need on offense, or that explosive factor to win this game. Because defense, you're right. I think Thibodeau can get enough pressure on Stroud to upset him, and with the rest of our linebacking crew, which is loaded. But on offense, I don't know if we're going to be able to score, the 30, 40 points that we might need to win this game.
With all things being equal in this quarterback competition, you've got I can't think of the baseball player's name.
Ashford.
Yeah. And then you've got, of course, Ty Thompson, the 5-star, and Anthony Brown. So whoever is going to make the best decisions and be able to pull the offense together and make the right reads should win the job, because I don't know at this point, even though Thompson's the 5-star, that the talent gap overrides the consistency that you need. So you're somewhat limited with Anthony Brown. He's not a great quarterback. He's a top 30 quarterback in the country. He's good. But yeah, he doesn't add.
Yeah,
anything.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, if we're going to have this elite defense, I'm just worried about how our offense stacks up. I mean, we've talked about recently changes in college football where offense is now beginning to win games, or offense does now win games more so than good defenses do. So I guess I'm just, I'm excited. I think it's going to be a great season. A playoff berth could be in the cards even if we lose to Ohio State. If that's our only loss, that looks good. It's close. But yeah, just a little nervous about offensive weapons. I mean, we have some good receivers, but we don't have that 5-star, 6'4" long receiver as a starter right now. I think Johnny Johnson is our guy, and he's fantastic, but I don't know how he's going to stack up against Ohio State DBs.
Yeah, you're very experienced at the skill position players. All those guys opted to come back and not go to the NFL. CJ Verdell and Travis Dye and Johnny Johnson. So you have experience there. But yeah, those guys aren't, especially at the wide receiver position, aren't elite talents, but they held on to the ball. They only played 7 games, but better than they did previously. But Ohio State's secondary was a mess last year. And I think Ohio State's defensive line is going to be one of the best in the nation, but it may not be one of the best in the nation to start, because 2 of the primary contributors there are freshmen. So
we hope to take advantage of their inexperience in an early game. That's our best shot.
Yeah, inexperience there, inexperience at linebacker for Ohio State as well. The secondary is pretty experienced, but they just were lousy last year, but they played.
Okay. One last question. I'll let someone else get on here. It's a bit of a long shot, but Thibodeau has explicitly stated that he is trying to win a Heisman Award this year. What would he have to do to get that nod, or at least be a finalist in the voting?
I think the Heisman comes down to 3 basic categories or criteria. Number 1, winning. Number 2, statistics. Number 3, highlight plays. So for him, it's going to skew more to the highlight plays. The 18 sack season is going to catch people's eye. The sack is the sexy stat on the defensive side of the ball. So he's going to need the stats. It's going to certainly help if he does something in bigger games, Ohio State and other big conference matchups in the Pac-12. And I'm talking about, strip sacks, batted balls in key situations. Wouldn't hurt to score once or twice. And I know that's really shouldn't even factor in. Like if a defensive player scores, it's usually partially because of, I don't want to say luck, but they're typically in the right place at the right time. It's just the right situation. So that doesn't really measure defensive dominance, but Heisman voters are a bit fickle, and they're going to be swayed by something like that, like a pick six on a batted ball that was huge in beating Ohio State in Columbus, or a strip sack near the end of the game. If he just has one of those where for 9 or 10 weeks until he slowed down late, Chase Young just seemed to be the talk from the defensive side of the nation. And there were just pregame shows just highlighting his moves from the outside and how many sacks he had.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mark. I'm a big fan, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
I appreciate that, Aaron. Have a good night.
You too.
All right. Got another call coming in. This one will be a little bit more somber, but certainly well worth it. Welcome to the Voice of College Football.
Hey, Mark, how are you?
I'm doing just fine. Who is this? I'm sorry. The voice recognition doesn't always pick up the name correctly.
That's all right. This is FSU Bones. I just wanted to say that I really appreciated your video on Bobby Bowden yesterday. I thought that was pretty awesome. I'd recommend anyone who hasn't checked it out to check it out for sure. Obviously, I'm biased, but I think you made a good case about him possibly being the best coach in the history of college football. I also really respect the fact that a lot of Miami fans and Gator fans came out yesterday and really had nothing but nice things to say about Bobby Bowden. I really respected that. I thought it showed a lot of class, like all the way around on your video that you did with Jason yesterday.
Yeah, that is good to see, that people can draw that line and say, okay, we can put away our petty little college football. And that's what's fun about college football. One aspect that's fun is obviously, having some trash talking at a reasonable rate and partaking in that, but knowing when, okay, now is not the time. And, we can respect the excellence on the field. We can respect the excellence as a human being, and at times, just like we do as a nation, hopefully at times, pull together and say, okay, well, we share this. We share our love for college football. We share our respect for Bobby Bowden, regardless of who he coached for. And we also respect just the humanity. And anybody reasonable understands that any of these coaches could have coached anywhere. They went where there were opportunities. So it wasn't like there was some allegiance initially. Of course, the allegiance grew and became huge for somebody like him that was there for 34 years. And he could have lived to be 1,000 and would have always associated himself as a Seminole and a Florida State coach. But he took the job because it was available and it was a great opportunity. In talking about him as possibly the greatest coach of all time, we're looking at 15 or 20 days to the season starts, so it's not something I want to take on right now, but I think it's a worthy project for the off season to really dissect just facets of not just focusing on him, but across the board, who would rank as the greatest coaches and why. Because I'm not one of these people that just say, okay, here's the national championship list, therefore they're the greatest coaches, or here's the winning percentage list. I like to put things into context. And what he did at that school, starting in 1976, is truly remarkable.
Yeah, absolutely. And more than just the wins. I mean, I know you've had Big Game James Coleman on your show a couple times. Well, more than a couple times. But if you've seen his thing that was out on Twitter today, him talking about the impact that Bobby Bowden had on his life, and just the other players from like Brian McFadden and Charlie Ward, all those like personal stories just really kind of hit home the person he was more than just a football coach. And I think ultimately that's what I got a lot of yesterday, is that was the big takeaway, is that he was a great coach, but an even better human being. And again, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I just wanted to say thank you for the video, and I really appreciate what you do.
Well, I definitely appreciate the call. Appreciate you being in the live chat. I see you there from time to time, and thanks for your support and your contributions. And again, it wasn't my intent to take up that argument, but I just wanted to mention that there can be an argument made, and I hope to take that up at some point. And I'm not going to be taking a stand for anybody. I want to start to dive into it myself and think. And my conclusion's probably going to be, depends on your perspective. I doubt if I'm going to come out of that and say, I believe so-and-so is the greatest, or everybody should think that so-and-so is the greatest college football coach of all time. But C-Bones, thank you so much for calling in. I appreciate the kind words.
Yeah, have a good night, Mark.
All right. Moving on. All right, we're going to talk some more Oregon football, this time with Ben, talking up the Ducks. Ben, how you doing tonight?
I'm great. How are you doing, Mark?
I'm good. What's going on?
Not much. I'm just so excited that football is almost back.
We're right about there.
We see fans in the crowd, in the stands.
Mm-hmm.
It could be great. Not even going to go into the Ohio State Oregon game. Enough people are talking about that. We're hyping it up and hoping for the best. But that brought up a good question about your other caller. Was yeah, exactly. You said for Thibodeau, it's a highlight reel, yeah, for defensive players, definitely, or sack record, something like that.
Yeah, just look at Charles Woodson. He had a one-handed interception against Michigan State in a close game along the sideline that is just jaw-dropping great. And then what won him the Heisman was, of course, the Ohio State game. It's arguably the greatest rivalry in the sport, especially at the time. And they have to beat Ohio State to win the Big Ten and go to the Rose Bowl. Ohio State was number 4 in the country, so they're playing for the Rose Bowl and a shot at the national title. He has a punt return for a touchdown. He intercepts a pass in the end zone. He has a long, 35 or 40-yard pass reception as an offensive player. That won him the Heisman.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what I said. It's got to be, like you said, late game, heroic, highlight reel, stats. It's got to add up.
Absolutely.
Which, is a good thing because, I mean, it was like even for Mariota in 2014 when he won the Heisman. It was a play against Michigan State. They were about to sack him, and he was able to flip the ball, and Michigan State was up like 17 on us. And then we came back and not blew them out entirely, but I mean, that was like that moment where everyone was like, oh, there it is. Like, it's.
Absolutely. It's a game everybody was watching. Yeah, it was the best game of the week. Michigan State went on to have a really good season, won the Cotton Bowl, so it's against a quality team. And yeah, it's just a unique play in a comeback. Yep. And then the overall stats were just ridiculous. Whatever his TD to pick ratio was like 42-4 or something like that.
Something along there. Yeah, it was really low until like the Rose Bowl and then the national championship threw a couple or whatever and hurt it or something like that. But thinking about that Cotton Bowl. Do we know who the kicker was for Baylor that got absolutely killed in that game?
Yeah, I don't remember that.
I was at the end. Michigan State blocked the kick and just killed the kicker. It was funny and sad at the same time. But
I remember the comeback.
Well,
I
I'm not going to
remember
keep
that
you,
kick.
It was at the end. Baylor, they were marching on the field. and they were gonna it was basically to ice the game. They were gonna go up something like 9, and instead the kicker it got blocked, and he went to get a tackle, and one of the defenders just went up and just laid him out. And he just laid there on the ground like a rag doll. It was, and then Michigan State went down and scored the final touchdown to win.
Well, I want to know who that is.
It was a really good game.
Oh yeah,
I know. I was I need to look him up and see what he's doing now.
Oh yeah, it was a great game. They were up 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter with 9 minutes left.
Yeah, exactly. And somehow they just, I don't know how you piss that away, but the defense for Michigan State stepped up.
Absolutely.
Well, hey, Mark, I'm going to let you get off here, and we'll take some other calls. I love the show, and you have a great night, all right?
Thanks, Ben. Appreciate it, man. Have a good one.
Hey, you too.
Our guy right there was Aaron Jones of Baylor in 2013. I do not recall Aaron Jones of Baylor as a place kicker. Sorry. For those people that think I know everything, I do not remember Aaron Jones, the place kicker for the Bears in 2013, who went. Listen to how many touchdowns Baylor scored that year. Bryce Petty threw 32 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions, 82 for 82 on PATs. Little shy in the field goals, though. 14 of 23, not the best. It's 60%. All right. This is what we do here at the Voice of College Football. We're looking at Baylor of 2013. Welcome to the Voice of College Football. Who's on the line?
Hey, this is Darius. How you doing, Mark?
I'm good. What's going on? Oh, I apologize.
Hey, kid,
I missed some of your paid comments. So let's see. Did I miss more than one?
It was 2, but it's okay.
Really?
No worries. Yeah, no
I
worries.
didn't think I missed any of those. I feel horrible. Well, those should be acknowledged.
No, it's okay. No, I wanted to talk about the Ohio State depth chart. Actually, I also wanted to talk about how the preseason rankings, Ohio State is number 5, which confuses me because we went to the national championship last year. And our recruiting classes are always top notch. For the best running back, best quarterback, best everything. And we're number 5 preseason, which really surprises me. I hear these Oregon fans calling in thinking that they're going to beat us, which this is not realistic. They don't have the talent or the coaching to beat Ohio State. And it is what it is. So I'm calling to see, why do you think that Ohio State is number 5? Because people keep talking about how, Ohio State, the quarterback, has done a college pass. But when's the last time Ohio State has ever underdeveloped a player in any position? You know what I mean? We have 5-star quarterbacks coming in. We have the best coaching staff in the country. We have Ryan Day, arguably the best quarterback coach in the country. And people are talking like our quarterback has a chance of not being a Heisman finalist. And it just blows my mind.
Well, Byers, this is what I would say. So I understand all of your points. They're certainly valid. Ohio State has recruited just about as well as anyone. I would say that Alabama's recruiting classes have been decidedly, not significantly, but decidedly better. Meaning, if you look at the roster, who's on the roster right now is, of course, the classes of 2018 through 2017 with the COVID year, 2017 through 21. So I think a few things factor in is that there's a possible difference between having a very talented quarterback and having a quarterback who actually fulfilled those expectations and proved to be a top flight elite quarterback. And I'm talking about Justin Fields. So, unless the next quarterback is exceptional and turns out to be one of the 2 or 3 best in the nation, then there is a drop off of some level. If CJ Stroud does win the job and turns out to be the 15th best quarterback in the nation, then there's a drop off. That's still enough with those weapons.
That's not realistic. That's not realistic, though. I mean,
what's not realistic? That CJ Stroud is the 15th best quarterback in the country?
No, he's going to be a Heisman finalist. I mean, he's playing for Ohio State. He's going to the best receivers in the country. He's going to be probably one of the best offensive minds in the country.
Well, that doesn't mean that he's the best quarterback in the country because he's got the weapons around him to be the best.
But he's going to be developed. He's going to be developed. I mean, I can't remember the last time Ohio State has ever put a mediocre quarterback on the field. It just doesn't happen.
The 15th best quarterback in the country is not mediocre. He's 15th out of 120, 28, 30.
To Ohio State standards,
we're not talking about Ohio State. I'm just talking about over the comparison versus the nation would be the 15th best quarterback in the country is not mediocre. So what do you think?
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, JT Barrett, where do you think he stood as a quarterback? Where do you think he ranked?
JT Barrett was a great college quarterback. He broke a lot of records at Ohio State. So to say he was a Heisman finalist, maybe not so much, but he still was one of the best quarterbacks in the country.
Well, you also have to understand you've set the bar extremely high to be a Heisman finalist. First of all, I don't put a lot of stock in being a Heisman finalist. That's a determination made by a bunch of people that doesn't. You could be the first one and not selected to go to New York and still be just as good as the guys that were selected. So that I'm not, whatever. That doesn't speak to me much.
So when I say Heisman finalist, I just mean the stats that normally come with that. I guess I should more just say playing at a top 5 level at the position.
All right. Okay.
I just don't feel like it's realistic to think that whoever could think about this. Ohio State is going to be with every single position. That the battle is a war zone, and whoever is the starter at every position is going to be an absolute stud. I mean, whoever's going to be the starting quarterback at Ohio State is going to be a monster. He's going to beat out other 5-star quarterbacks who are going to be just as good, if not as good. But that starter is going to be just incredible. And that's why I feel like there is such talent and such great development happening at Ohio State that to say the quarterback is going to be the 15th best in the country, I understand what your standards are saying, but as Ohio State standards, that's just not good enough. Not for us. You got to be a Heisman finalist because it's not the championship but for Ohio State. That's
well, I would argue that JT Barrett and Braxton Miller were not quite that good. They weren't top 3 to 5 quarterbacks in the nation. They were good. They were really good. They racked up a ton of statistics because of the offense that they played in and the talent around them. So basically, we've had 2 consecutive quarterbacks, Dwayne Haskins and Justin Fields, that did reach that standard. They were top 3 to 5 in the country.
They were also coached by Ryan Day. JT Barrett was not coached by Ryan Day. So, and you know, I just wanted to kind of air my frustration out about that because I think that Alabama definitely deserves to be number 1 preseason, but to put Ohio State at number 5 is just an insult. It's a pure insult.
Well, you basically have 5. You basically have 5 teams that are considered to be ahead of the field. So that 5th position is just saying Ohio State's at this point estimated by those people to be the 5th out of those 5. But that there's a distinction. There's no doubt talent-wise, there's Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Georgia, and Oklahoma's not quite. They haven't filled out a roster to those teams' standard, but this team's loaded at Oklahoma. But it's one of the 3 or 4 most talented rosters in the country. But I think people are, again, to answer the rest of your question, I brought up the quarterback position, the question mark. There's a question mark in regards to not having a. There's no question that they're capable at running back, that they're really good at running back, but whether they have a dynamic running back, whether they have J.K. Dobbins or Zeke Elliott in the backfield, we don't know that. We know that there are a couple freshmen who could be, but we know that Master Teague is not J.K. Dobbins or Zeke Elliott, unless he shows us to be something he's not. And the secondary was awful last year. And I think that's what's swaying people's opinion.
That is very true. That's very true. And that actually leads to my paid comment earlier about Mayan Williams. Mayan Williams is the starting back for Ohio State. And if you remember what I said before, I said this last year, Mayan Williams will be a Heisman finalist, or the talent of a Heisman finalist. I believe in him that much.
Well, I've only seen him carry the ball like 10 times. So you may be right. And when I say CJ Stroud, I'm throwing out a possible scenario or conclusion that CJ Stroud could win the job as expected and be a top 15 quarterback in the nation. I'm not saying he will be. If he turns out to throw for 4,000 yards and 40 touchdowns and a handful of picks and is a quote unquote Heisman finalist, that would not surprise me, because obviously he won the job over 3 studs, and he's got the best wide receiver core in the nation, and he's got one of the top 2 or 3 offensive lines in the nation.
Yeah. And in my opinion, he's going to have the best running attack in the nation, because for what I'm hearing, CJ Stroud is like a clone of Justin Fields. I mean, if we can expect Justin Fields type plays from CJ Stroud, I mean, he's going to have his running game. He's going to have his passing game. It's going to be a nightmare for offenses. That's why I truly believe that Ohio State is not the best team in the country, because that's Alabama. I'll give them that. But it's the second best team in the country. That's just my opinion.
I think had they played Alabama better in the championship game, then people would be more apt to give them serious consideration.
Yeah, but
for a national championship.
we had half our team. I mean,
well, I understand the limitations for Ohio State. You also have to understand that Alabama had guys out too.
Yeah, they had, the Heisman finalist, Heisman winner. I get all that, but I feel like we would have put up more of a challenge if we would have had a full out roster and played more games.
Sure, well, I think so too.
I feel like it's almost an unfair standard, because anybody in our position, Clemson, Georgia, whatever, who had half their team, it would have been the same result. You know what I mean? It's just, you can't really win like that.
Well, basically, they lost a dominant running back on the first play of the game. So lost a running back who had completely obliterated 2 really good defenses the 2 previous games. Trey Sermon, of course. They lost Wyatt Davis sometime in the second quarter, an NFL guard. They had, who did they lose at defensive? Tommy Togiai didn't play, correct? It was one of the D tackles. Correct. Yeah, Tommy Togiai did not play. And they had issues with the secondary. And for as bad as the secondary was, and not to make excuses, because there's no excuse for how bad they played, yeah, they did have injuries before the season, during the season. Yeah, they did. And I think had they played a full schedule, knowing their coaching staff, that they would have figured things out and just didn't have enough game reps.
Yeah, our secondary was god awful. I mean, I have a lot of faith in Gary Combs. I wasn't really excited about when he announced him as a hire for defensive coordinator. I'm glad he's getting help this year. I'm glad that we're going to a 4-2-5 defense to help with that pass protection. We will get left a little exposed in the run game on lateral passes, but that's okay. I think, it's a little bit too much for Gary to handle, or carry, doing the secondary and doing all the defensive coordinating last year. So, I have faith that we'll make the turnaround, but you are correct. Our secondary was just, it was painful to watch. It was just painful.
Well, I appreciate the call. It was a good one. Have a good
Thank
night.
you, Mark. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Mark.
And before we take these two other calls, I would like to certainly acknowledge some folks in the live chat. So we've got our guy, Falconer X. What an avatar. What a profile pic. Love it. Hates Florida State. I could have guessed that, but I respect Bobby Bowden. Rest in peace. Falconer X, thank you so much for that. And don't want to miss. Where is it? Where is it? Gotta find it. Gotta find it. Gotta find it. Where to go? Where to go? Huh. Uh-oh. We got a major super chat that came in, and if I can't post it to the screen, but I obviously let the chat go too far, and if I can't get back there to post it to the screen, I get upset about that. No, it's a red super chat, but it's not on my. See, if you guys could see what I see, then you would understand why I can't post some of these super chats. You would see. Uh-oh, I'm going to pull 18 cables out of the. So there you have. So that's what I look at right there. So we've got, I look at myself there. Try not to. I actually have to blow up the screen so I can read the chat. And then if I've got the pointer where it's supposed to be, then I scroll through I don't know if I'm scrolling right now because I can't see a thing, but I scroll through. And sometimes if it goes too far, then I miss that. So I can click on this little red icon up here to see who gave the super chat, but I cannot post it to the screen. So that's unfortunate. So Christ Savior 888. Thank you so much for the super chat. That is remarkably generous of you. And if you have a comment that you want me to post to the screen, I cannot pick it up here. I just can't believe that it won't go that far back to get your comment, but leave it for me. And then if everybody else could just kind of point it out so I could find it, that would be phenomenal. That would be phenomenal. So again, Christ Savior 888. Thank you so much for the super chat. Falconer X back at it too. This is not a surprise. Hates the University of Florida much more than Florida State. This is a question I ask Miami fans from time to time in regards to, and really all three fan bases in the Florida. Yeah, it's called the state of Florida, Florida State, Miami. Who you respect out of your rivals? Who do you hate the most? Disrespect? Why? And it's usually pointed at Florida. Falconer X hates the University of Florida, hates those Gators much more than Florida State because they don't have the stones to play the U every year. And that's always what I hear. And I have a little defense for the University of Florida. Okay. If you played in the SEC, you have 4 non-conference games. Florida is scheduled to play for good reason, and they should Florida State every year. So most teams in the Power 5 play 1 difficult non-conference game. Typically, some of them play 2. Somebody I saw the other day plays 3 difficult games. Stanford plays Notre Dame, Kansas State, and Vanderbilt, but there was somebody else who plays 3 tough non-conference games. Can't remember them right now. But you typically play 1 big non-conference game. And for Florida, that's always Florida State. So they can't play Miami every year. It's just not feasible. It's just not. And I don't think Florida State and Miami fans want to hear this, but if you did not play each other within the ACC schedule, then you would not play both of the other two schools within the state every year. You wouldn't do it. And for good reason. So, Yelly Belly, it's not that the super chat doesn't work, I don't believe. It's that I can only scroll back so far to post the comments to the screen. So if somebody makes a comment and then there's like 50 more comments that come in, I can't go back and retrieve that comment to post it to the screen. Okay. Falconer. Falconer X. The state of the U. Mark, just click on the super chat. Well, I did click on the super chat. Yeah, I can see who gave it. I gave them their props. Christ Savior 888. But I cannot post it to the screen. That's what I'm saying. I cannot post it to the screen because I can't go back that far. Okay. Yes, George, I'm usually 20 minutes behind in the chat. It's just the way it is. Because I come on here and you guys start talking it up and I got to introduce the show and get us into it. And by that time, we're like 20 minutes behind. All right, let's get to the calls. And while I'm taking calls, sometimes I actually have to think while I'm talking to these people. Welcome to the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's Matt from New York. I love you on the Michigan podcast with Steve Dave.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
So I figure I'd go with your rival topic here. Obviously, Ohio State's the big one, although we all know how devalued that has gotten, at least on our side of the equation in the last 15 to 20 years. But I actually want to make the point that for those not in Big Ten country, maybe even specifically in Michigan, that Notre Dame is really the B rivalry for the Michigan fan than Michigan State is. Because I'm here in New York, at least, and as many Michigan alumni and fans have, there's even more Notre Dame fans, to the point that they're pretty much the de facto home college football team here. And their fans are annoying. And they are the epitome of what a Yankee fan or a Cowboy fan is. So for me, I've always viewed them as the rival other than the Buckeyes.
Okay. So Notre Dame would be the most hated team for you.
Outside of Ohio State, of course.
Okay.
Like that is obviously right. So the argument is always been, and I even think just when you have a Justin Rowe on, you may have discussed this once or twice. Outside of Ohio State, at least in Michigan fandom, it's always who's the other rival. And, some people will say it's Michigan State. Some people will say it's Notre Dame, depending on geography or maybe your friends group. I've argued since, I'm not in Michigan or I'm not in Big Ten country, Notre Dame is the other rival because there's more Notre Dame fans all over the place. They're not a likable fan base if you're not a Notre Dame fan. That's always been my view. And I think, the fact that now Michigan doesn't get to play them every year anymore because they broke the TV contract to go play Texas that time. And that almost lit the fire even more, and you don't like them. But yeah, I've always argued Notre Dame, in my opinion, really is the second rival.
It's a shame they don't play anymore. When I was growing up, that was one of the 3 or 4 games that I wanted to see more than any other every season, even if they weren't on top of their game.
And the other thing that would make it an even better rivalry is, and again, this topic's going to, it's one that doesn't go anywhere, but they really should be in the Big Ten, not just for geographic reasons. You have the rivalry with Michigan that's, decades old. They play Michigan State every year, which I've kind of never understood why they always went for that, unless it was geography. If they played Ohio State, I know they played in the bowl game a few years ago, but that would be a great game that you can do every year or every other year. They belong in the Big Ten, which at least for Michigan fans kind of builds that rivalry even more, because you always have this argument and belief that they should play every year regardless, because they should be in the conference, but they're not because of that NBC deal.
Yeah, so you mentioned the three rivalries with Michigan, Michigan State, which always seemed like an odd one to me too, that they always played, but they did way before I started watching college football in the late 70s. And in Notre Dame, because Michigan State has largely been a fairly marginal program during much of its history, Notre Dame has dominated the series. I'd be interested to see what the spread is, but I bet it's 3 or 4 to 1. And then at Purdue, the same thing. Notre Dame, with a much better football history, has dominated that series, but still, that was a game that was played every year. And to a lesser degree, there have been spurts of time in the recent past, meaning let's say the last 40 years, in which Notre Dame has played Penn State a number of times. And yeah, Notre Dame, Ohio State would be phenomenal. They've played 4 times in the last 25 years. They played in 95, 96. They played in the 05 Fiesta Bowl, and they played in the Fiesta Bowl that you just referenced a few years ago after the 2015 season. And even Notre Dame has struck up a few series with Northwestern at times. But yeah, it'd be a tremendous fit. Like Notre Dame playing Wisconsin this year. I'm looking forward to that game. They're just natural, because we talked about this when Texas and Oklahoma were announced to join the SEC, that each conference has a feel based on its history, its tradition, its brand names, its culture. And Notre Dame, just from a football standpoint, its culture, its history just blends right into the Big Ten. It just fits Big Ten football.
And they technically are, and again, I know this is a different sport. They're technically members of the Big Ten when it comes to hockey. So this isn't like you're putting them into somewhere they technically aren't already in, although I know that's a complete different entity and different issue. But I just think for football, and you can even make the argument for basketball, they would probably be better suited in the Big Ten than they are the ACC, because in basketball terms, Duke is a basketball school that's way ahead of them in basketball. North Carolina, Syracuse, and the list, Louisville, and the list goes on and on there. But if you keep it to football, I would love if Notre Dame was in the Big Ten, to have that Michigan game every year and to just make things a lot better for the rivalry. And again, the one thing that happened with Michigan State that made it worse was that really was a little brother, big brother thing with Michigan until D'Antonio turned things around there. And of course, the Rich Rod era and the Brady Hoke disaster. And again, I know you bring this up with Steve all the time when you talk to him. That's another problem I have with Harbaugh. He should really be undefeated against Michigan State. That first year with the muff fumble on the punt, he beats them in year 2, although that Michigan State team was bad. He should have won in 2017 on that primetime game when it was raining. I know it was Sean O'Corn, but still, there was another bad Michigan State team. He won 2 in a row in 18 and 19, and then the disaster with Mel Tucker this year. There's no excuses. He should be undefeated against the Spartans, and yet his record doesn't indicate that.
Yeah, absolutely. And this most recent one, of course, this was after Michigan had blasted Minnesota on prime time and looked like they might have a decent team this past year. And Rocky Lombardi hit him up for 323 yards, and Ricky White scored a bunch of touchdowns or racked up 200 yards receiving, and nobody had ever heard of him as a freshman 3-star. So it was, I think, a 22-point spread. And yeah, that's not a good look.
And I've tried to stay optimistic for the last few Harbaugh years. In 2018 looked really damn good until it didn't. That Saturday there in Columbus, and 2019 they kind of got me late in the year, and then that Saturday in Ann Arbor happened, and I was even optimistic to a point in that bowl game against Alabama for a little bit, and then reality set in. But this year, I don't really have any sort of excitement because, when you go through this, ebb and flow so many times, how am I supposed to believe, even after the weird, quirky year of last year, when you get punched in the mouth by a really bad Penn State team, when Wisconsin goes into your own building on a primetime game and kills you, how am I supposed to get, geeked up knowing, hey, Washington can beat you, even though there are mid to low level teams in the Big Ten can either give you a run for your money or beat you. And then, you have that beautiful game at the end of the year that used to be a rivalry and now it's turned into a scheduled butt kicking.
Yeah. When the biggest thing to celebrate last year was a comeback win against Rutgers in overtime. That's hard to take. All right, sir. Well, I appreciate the call.
By the way, that.
Yep.
Thank you, Mark.
Sure. Thanks for the call. Have a good night. All right. Let's check the live chat here real quick before we move it on. Welcome to the Voice of College Football. I believe we've got Nick on the line.
It's actually McD Sports 4.
Oh, McD. I should have known. How's it going?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm good.
Well, I guess you know why I'm calling about your mail and football projected video.
I guessed. I think I'm only one game off of your pick.
You are. But I can't disagree with anything you said in that video. I think you actually gave Mailon a very fair look. It was a pretty good video.
Wow, I got the thumbs up from McD. So, yeah, if we went
I do think...
I was just going to say, if we went game by game, I don't know at what point we would differ. I didn't go game by game, as you saw. I gave some indication as to where I was pinpointing the losses, but I think you like that Iowa game at home as a possible upset.
I do. And I personally don't think we win that game because, I just have a lot of respect for Kirk Ferentz and what he does up there. I just think they come into Maryland and beat us. But I do think we beat that West Virginia game. I know you have us going 2-1 in the non-conference. So I'm assuming that one loss is to West Virginia at home. I do think we go undefeated in the non-conference. That's probably the big difference I had between that video and what I have.
All right. So you might still have 4-5 in the Big Ten, but a clean sweep out of conference for 7-5.
That's what I have, correct.
Okay. Yeah, I like West Virginia.
They lose a lot from last year's team.
Sure, they do.
So I like what Neil Brown's doing up there, even though I'm a Maryland fan technically. I can't really sit there and praise West Virginia, I guess. But I think we beat them week one. We're 3.5-point dogs in that game right now. I think we pull off the model upset and get them. The Big Ten games I have as winning, in no particular order, is the Illinois game. I have as being Michigan State as well on the road. I think Michigan State is going to be terrible this year. And then I think we pull off two upsets, and there's Indiana and Michigan at home this year.
Harbaugh loses to Maryland. Wow. Okay.
I think Michigan's going 0-4. I think Michigan's going 0-4 in November.
Oh, so what do you have Michigan going for the season?
7-5, 4-5 in the conference.
Oh, man! If Michigan's 7-1 and then they tank and lose the last four, that would be brutal.
Yeah, Penn State, Indiana, Maryland, and Ohio State.
Yeah. Could happen.
I don't know if Penn State or Indiana comes first. I might have said that word wrong, but I mean, just want to come on here and tell you good job on the mailing video, really.
Appreciate that. The number one ND fan wants to know if Tua's brother or cousin are still on the Maryland team.
Yep.
Yeah, he's going to sling it around. I think you guys are going to score some points. I think he'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, the only team on that schedule that I don't think that I could go into the season confident saying we're not going to beat Ohio State. So,
yeah, you could beat everyone else.
hopefully it's a good season. That's what I'm thinking, and I'm not saying. I mean, we're not going to pull off 11 wins, but I think 7-5 is pretty realistic.
Did you like that note that I saw? I don't know where I picked it up, but that Maryland, I think it was in Phil Steele's magazine, that Maryland was the first team since 1978 to win 2 consecutive games as an 18-plus point underdog.
Yeah, I knew about that when it happened. That Penn State game was crazy. And the Minnesota game, but especially the Penn State game. I don't know if you remember, but I was really excited after that game because we absolutely got embarrassed on Friday night, 59-0 in 2019. But in 2020, we go in up there to Happy Valley and beat them 35-19. So.
All right, McD. I appreciate the call.
Yep. Thanks for taking my call. Go Terps.
Our man McD, happy about the Terps. Thinks they're going to win 7 at least. All right, here we go. Got, I believe it's Boo on the line. Welcome to the Voice of College Football.
Mark, this is Boo. How you doing today?
Boo, what's going on tonight?
Hey, just flipping the script, if I may, here from who do you hate to who do you love, and a little rest in peace on Bobby Bowden, and maybe making a quick argument because I don't think there'll be a debate on the best coaches ever, and why I think he's going to stand unchallenged. And we look at I left a comment on today's GOATs, and what that man was king, where that man came from, and what he provided is not doable in today's game. We talk about culture and organic and the pains he had to go through with that program, and the numbers that you so eloquently state from time to time, and on his memorial of his record on what he achieved, and the hits that program had to take, going and getting beaten up a couple of years in a row at somebody else's backyard, black eyes you had to have for a few years before he ascended to where he was, even when he played my Sooners back in 80 and 81, 79, 80, those 2 Orange Bowls where we barely got by. We were already firmly entrenched as a blue blood culture, and they were just coming up, and they were that good, and he was that good. And when the sustainment of that program and his winning seasons to be, 14, 15 years and top 4 or 5, to me is, per that, the really debate is where have you arrived? And Lou Saban's an amazing coach. But where you arrived and where you came from are different arguments. And it won't be any time in our era, and hasn't been in the last 10 years, where what's organic, what he created, that culture, is no longer allowed to sustain. The transfer portal, all of those things to grow organically. And I think of a good tribute to, I think of Matt Campbell, what an amazing job at Iowa State he's done. People want Matt Campbell. They don't want Iowa State. That's a Big 12 breakup. That to me is a good example of what is a tribute to him and the coaching that he's done, and others. It's very limited, getting limited, even though they got NIL, less on the players. The transfer portals are going to start getting filled up. You're not going to have that time frame, that establishment of what he provided college football. While all these changes of late have been occurring, and I think in my mind we forget, and when we're wax nostalgic about those things, that I don't like what took place. I understand what's taking place, and it's a microcosm of what our society is. Hell, the last debate is the division, the tribalism, and all those things too. And you got to win now. I left that comment. It's everybody wants quick grits. Nobody wants anything slow cooked. Microwave popcorn, et cetera, It's if you want that, you crave for that, then we've got to recreate that. And I don't see it, sadly, uncoming. Now new things will come about, and but as the state remains today, and I think this change, his death and his legacy are ironically a good memorial to me of what we see now and what we really want. And it's flavor of the month, and hell, the average coach got the shelf life of milk. They're gone. If you don't win, baby, win now. And so that's my 2 cents on Mr. Bowden. More than anything, the overarching thing is the man he was, the smile he provided, the levity that he gave everybody, the enjoyment, and that's extolled by everybody after his death. And football is second to that. That's how remarkable that man was, and he was flawed just like we all are. And this coming from Switzerland, where I love my Barry Switzer. A lot of problems and a great man, and did a lot of great things. And those eras have passed, and we're getting changed. But that's just my 2 cents on who's the best of all time. It's unfair because the playing field is different, like any other comparative eras, whether it's Tyson and Ali or Jordan and LeBron or whatever you want to go into. You have to look at the semantics and the mechanics of how they got where they are and where they came from. And the numbers right after that, I had to absorb those because my forget-it is on and don't work so well. And it's just truly amazing to really look at the ascension of what that program became, what part of college history that is and became. And more than anything is the admiration that has shown in his passing and his legacy. That legacy will not soon be replicated. There's my argument for the man. And boy, we had some great games, and we're lucky at 2000 to get by him. But I think as quickly everything's traveling in dog years nowadays, and it's gone. Here today, gone tomorrow, and so will his passing. But that's my 2 cents, and I truly put him at the top. And you got Bud and Bear, everybody else. We can Lou, and we can all have that discussion. But when you put him under the microscope, Mr. Bowden, I think we're all grateful that we were able to witness that era. But I appreciate you, Mark, and thanks for getting on it quick and so eloquently stating all the things you did about the man. And I think that's the main thing to me, that seminal moment, is remembering the man. The rest of all this other shit will follow. It's football, hell. But what a life to celebrate. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Boo. Appreciate that.
Good night.
The man deserves it. There's no question about that. Appreciate everybody being here. I apologize for those people that we did not get to on the phone lines. So a number of people dropped their calls because we were jam-packed. I never know if we've got more than 3 calls waiting. We typically have 3. So if it says 3, then I know those are filled up, but there might be other people that are trying to get through and cannot. So Dennis must be gone at this point, but he likes my content. Dennis, thank you so much for being here. Dennis is here on a regular basis. Can't deal with George's lunacy. George, are you driving folks away here? You're supposed to be helping me out. George, you're supposed to be a support. You're supposed to be backing me up. Are you driving people away? What's going on, George? What are you doing? John says, as a Michigan fan, I'd love to have won the Big Ten championship in 2016. So let's give Penn State a little credit. They found and coached Barkley. Man, I got to say this about Michigan fans concerning 2016. We don't know what the measurement should have been. There is no, with all the scientific know-how that we have concerning how we have been able to dissect all these sports and the way they're played on the field and be able to measure if a tennis ball, where it bounces exactly on the court and the feet inbounds and all the replay and everything else we have at our disposal at this point. With all the technology, spotting the football is still an inexact science. Every play of the game. I told my son this a couple of days ago because we were talking about Tom Brady. And Tom Brady's phenomenal. You know, I'm a knucklehead to even say that. Obviously, Mark. Yes, phenomenal. Greatest quarterback of all time. Probably most accomplished. It's not even an argument. It's a joke. But some things bother me when games are not won, therefore championships, I mean, but they are put into the hands of the official. And whether the official made the correct call or not, certainly it bothers me even more when the official makes the incorrect call. NFC Championship game a few years ago, pass interference should have been called against the Rams, against the Saints. Most likely the Saints, their win probability goes through the roof to like 98% if they are given the first down there with a pass interference call. And it was obvious, you know, it was like a blindside hit. But for example, the AFC Championship game from what would have been 2018, when Brady throws the pick that loses the game against Kansas City, would have lost the game. There was only like 30 seconds left in the game. The game's over. Kansas City's got the ball. They just have to kneel down. The game's over. Okay. Brady throws the pick that loses the AFC Championship game, but D Ford is offsides. Well, there are penalties that, and the official had every right to blow the whistle and make the call because D Ford was lined up offsides. But there are penalties in which you can say that penalty affected the play. So since we don't know what would have happened had the penalty not been occurred, well, you got to throw the penalty flag and replay the down. And mark the penalty against the particular team. But there are other times in which, yes, technically there was a penalty flag should have been thrown, but that penalty had no impact on the play. And that was the case there. D Ford's on the other side of the line of scrimmage, gets no heat on Tom Brady. Brady's throwing to his right. D Ford's way off to the left, barely gets across the line of scrimmage. Doesn't affect the play, but the ref made the call. So New England would not have went to the Super Bowl and won the Super Bowl that year. The Tuck rule. The official made the right call. The officials huddled, made the right call. Who was in that boardroom? Who was on that committee, that rules committee that came up with the Tuck rule? Who that knows football would even allow themselves to start overthinking a fumble versus an incomplete pass versus cocking the ball and tucking it? All I know is that you have to have your arm raised and you have to bring your arm forward to throw a football. And if you've started to launch your arm in a throwing motion and decide to put it back, well, you have decided to run with the football. You have decided not to throw the football. Who with any brain would determine that this should then be a pass? Why did I start on that? Oh, along the same lines, measuring and marking the football and where the football should be down. Guys run out of bounds. Where should the ball be? Where should the ball be marked? Guy ran out of bounds. The ball's like in his hand. He's waving it around. He's running across a line diagonally. Every play is mismarked technically to some degree, whether it's by that much or by that much. And so I have no issue with Michigan fans belly aching about 2016. And to their credit, I don't hear them doing that, because that would have ended the game. They would have gone to the Big Ten championship game. We don't know what would have happened. We assume that Michigan, being on the same par as Penn State that year, actually Michigan beat Penn State. Yeah, that's right. That's the year that Michigan obliterated Penn State 42-10. Michigan would have gone to the Big Ten championship. We cannot assume that they would have defeated Wisconsin, but they would have been a substantial favorite. They would have been in the playoff. It's who knows what we're talking about today if Harbaugh and Michigan get that measurement in Columbus in 2016. Who knows what the discussion is today? If Brady and the Patriots do not get the Tuck rule in 2001, now I have little doubt that the talent and the work ethic and the execution would have ruled out, and the Patriots would have still been a dynasty, but that launched it. That's when they had nothing. They were not a dominant figure in the NFL. They were an upstart. So that launched the dynasty. And who knows? Well, I thought they did review, if Stevie, if you're talking about the Michigan, Ohio State, JT Barrett mark, was that not reviewed? Sure it was, 1,000,000 times. Chris is telling us that there was a weird play that almost cost Florida a national championship. Dependent Fanatic, I think, is talking about 2016 Ohio State, Michigan, that there were bad calls throughout. I know that Michigan outplayed Ohio State for 3.5 quarters, but couldn't shake them. So Michigan fans, again, I'm impressed. And this isn't just one or two. That I've heard this for years now, the last 5 years. They typically take the high road and say, we should not have been in that position. The Tuck rule is ridiculous. Have you liked the video? Please hit the like button. Please share these videos out on social media. So share the link out there, or just flat out do it the old-fashioned way and just tell people we talk college football every night. The voice of college football. So we've got live streams going every day somewhere on our network of channels. I have seen more Chris Leak talk than ever. Pete Kell has been a Penn State fan for 51 years. They will never win a national title with James Franklin. It's that simple. Well, the odds are with you, Pete Kell. You're probably right. Saw a number of comments about the kickoff of the Ohio State-Oregon game and whether that's a noon Eastern time kickoff. I believe it is. Let's see if that can be verified. Which is really going to screw with Oregon's time clocks. I hope that Mario Cristobal and his staff get those kids out to Columbus earlier than usual. Week 2. Let's see if we've got a game time. Ohio State and Oregon. It is the noon game on Fox. Noon Eastern time. 9 a.m. on the Pacific Coast. Again, Fox makes the decision, as the TV networks typically do, that we really don't care about what's going on the West Coast. You're going to have to watch your football at 9 in the morning. Got a call coming in. Let's get right to it here at the Voice of College Football from Michigan State fan. Welcome.
Hey, Mark, how you doing?
I'm good. MSU #1 fan. How are you?
Doing good. Getting
Good.
close to the kickoff.
Yeah, Michigan State Northwestern. Got a Friday night game.
Yep.
That's
September 3rd.
exciting.
Yep. I tend to agree with those officiating calls are pretty awful. When the
Well,
Patriots played the Kansas City Chiefs in New England, there's a pass interference that should have been called.
well, the point I was making there was that technically it was the right call, but the penalty, the play was that forced the penalty was not a play that in any way affected the play. So I just hate to see that, because the play happened the way it would have happened regardless of the penalty. So the Patriots would have lost the game and not gone to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, there's that Michigan State game from 2015, that targeting on Joe Bolden should not have been called either.
I'm sorry, what was supposed to be called in the 2015 game?
Targeting on Joe Bolden,
Oh,
on Connor Cook.
I don't remember that.
If you look at it, Jack Conklin,
Yeah.
number 79 in white, this one is his job is finish off his block. But Bolden's trying to help out with the tackle. He kind of got pushed into Connor Cook, and they still called that targeting.
Well, you still won that
To me,
game.
yeah. I'm
Still
supposed to
won
think
the
as a
game.
state fan that should be called.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think will happen with that Miami-Michigan State series?
Well, I think
That home and home.
Miami's a little too talented. I don't think it's going to be a great game. I think Michigan State's going to give them a fight. If I had to call it right this second, I say Miami wins that game, I don't know, 34-17.
I don't know about that. I mean, will Michigan State get down at home again because of that home and home series with the COVID season?
Yeah, so they're going to have to figure out what to do with that other game that was lost.
Yeah. And then what do you think about the playoff expansion?
What do I think of expansion?
And the playoff.
Oh, well, the playoffs should be expanded, and they're going to be expanded. We don't know when, but the 12-team proposal is most likely going to take hold here as early as 2023.
I feel like Cincinnati should be in the college football playoff conversation if they beat Indiana and Notre Dame.
Well, assuming they're undefeated, they should be, and they will be. I don't know. That doesn't mean that they're going to be included, but they'll be in the conversation. That's exactly what I want to see happen. I want to see Cincinnati go undefeated with those 2 wins just to see what the committee is forced to do.
And just look at last year. They must beat Georgia. If they can do that, if they can keep up with Georgia, that's going to be a tough task for anybody, even Clemson.
That's right.
I think they get disrespected as a group of 5, along with UCF too. Get disrespected by the committee.
Well, the schedule's not as difficult. So.
All right. I meant to see Cam on the Florida State show. It's a trash talk battle with Jason.
Well, we're hoping to get that together. We are hoping to get Jason and Cam together to argue the 2013 Florida State Seminoles against 2001 Miami.
I'll take Florida State because Michigan State kind of got ripped off that season too because of the BCS era in the Notre Dame game.
All right, MSU number 1 fan. What's that?
One more quick question. Do you think they should challenge PI, defensive pass interference, in college football too?
Should they change it?
In NFL? No, challenge it.
Oh, should there be
like
challenges to... I would hate to go to that extent with it. You know, all these things are done to make the calls more accurate, so I can appreciate that, and they would be, but that is a judgment call, and so for right now, I'm okay with it's those calls are unlike determining if somebody's foot is in bounds or if the ball crossed the plane. That's a judgment call, pass interference.
All right, thanks for taking my call, Mark.
Sure. Thanks, MSU number 1 fan. Appreciate it. All right, folks. I want to remind everyone that, these folks at my man Joey and the fine folks at TriStateWoodsketch.com, TriStateWoodsketch.com, they will really hook you up. You send them a photo and choose the surface that you would like, and they put together a fine product. It is first rate, and I appreciate that, them doing that for me. And again, that's TriStateWoodsketch.com, but you got to let them know that I sent you as well. TriStateWoodsketch.com. Also, Amazon, use the link in the description section. When you shop at Amazon, please use that link in the description section. That helps us tremendously. You can contribute at Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App as well. Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App. Just search Mark Rogers TV. I'm going to be back tomorrow night, I believe, at some point, because I think we're going to do a show here in the next several days, sometime this week, where we're going to look at concerns and questions for the major contenders around college football. In the meantime, I got to knock out some predictions. I think the last one we posted was Ole Miss this morning, the Ole Miss Rebels. That was my last prediction. I've got about 15 teams down and about 50 to go. So I got to hustle. There's going to be about 3 to 4 coming per day. And of course, our 24-hour live stream, 24-hour live stream. And again, we're really excited because this college football season to bring you post-game shows for a number of team-specific channels. So you guys know that have been with me during a college football season that I'm here throughout the day on Saturday. And what I do is I watch about 4 games at a time, take tons of notes, and I produce instant analysis videos, but I also come on live between the noon games and the 3:30 games, and between the 3:30 games and the primetime games, and then after the primetime games into the late night window. We're coming here live constantly, taking your calls on a Saturday afternoon. So be here for the national show. But if you love a particular team, Iowa, Ohio State, Michigan, Miami, Florida State, Oklahoma, Notre Dame, Texas A&M, Florida. If you love those teams, please be locked in on our post-game coverage. It's going to be phenomenal. All right. Appreciate all of you here at the Voice of College Football. Tomorrow night, I will be going live at some point, but for sure scheduled is I got to work around our Nebraska show. Tuesday night is Nebraska Live at 8 o'clock Eastern time. Nebraska Live, 8 o'clock Eastern with Greg Peterson and Josh Banderas. We'll see you then.